What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the divide between review scores on High on Life between, the gaming reviewers and then people that are playing the game afterwards. And this is another example of that disconnect. You look at movies with like Rotten Tomatoes, and there's some really good examples of movies that either get very low critic scores and then very high audience scores, or the other way around, and go back and forth. And same thing for games. For Metacritic, you can even go to Steam in terms of the reviews on Steam, and for High on Life, it is quite the divide. Now, it's not the example of like a movie that gets a 35 on Rotten Tomatoes and it gets like a 90 based off. Like, those are, I think, the most extreme examples of just what are these reviewers. They're not plugged in like at all, right? High on Life is a little bit different because it's not too bad, but it definitely is bad. So on Metacritic, and this is a problem generally with Metacritic, and we talked about this with the review scores of High on Life when they came out before the game came out. I mentioned this before, but looking at it again, normally, for those that maybe aren't familiar with Metacritic, so they divide it with the platforms that a game is on, right? So for High on Life, there is technically a review page, like a website that has the breakdown for Xbox One, Series X, and PC. Okay, the Xbox One actually has 0. There's no critic scores whatsoever, which is not really true, but we'll get there. The Xbox Series X one does, and the PC one also does, and respectively 67, I believe, and 61. I think it's a 61 on the Series X version. And you could be asking, and I would ask this question, why is there a divide? Why is it a 67 on one and then a 61 on the other? And you could say, well, maybe like a platform, like Xbox Series X, maybe something doesn't run, or PC, either one. Maybe there's an issue there. But oftentimes, specifically with Metacritic, and I do like Metacritic because I love averages. I like numbers and math and all that stuff. I do like to see averages, but they do, I think, it confuse sometimes because some reviews count for one, but they don't count for the other. They don't include some places, but they'll include others. Even for and it's hard. You obviously can't include a review score from like a Skill Up, and I don't even think Skill Up did a review for this, or like ACG. You can't do a buy, rent, wait for sale. Like, that doesn't translate to a 7 out of 10. So I do understand it, but you miss out on those. Now, another thing also to point out with High on Life before we get to the differences is the fact that very few reviewers actually, and I called this out. I had said, why is High on Life? Why did they not get, if I'm going to criticize them actually for anything, I'd actually criticize them for the extreme lack of codes they gave out. And it's not like a jealousy thing. I mean, I did not get a code, just being very transparent. I didn't get a code, but it's not a jealousy thing that I'm super upset. It's like, they really didn't give out codes to like almost anyone. I think they gave out codes maybe like 15, 20 people max. And that is just weird. Like, it's just a weird thing. That's just an extra, okay? Then you go to the fan reception, and it's got an 8.3. So you're looking at a 6.1 or a 6.7 to an 8.3. It's a 2-point difference. It is big. It's definitely big. And I think you see it kind of amplified more on social media, like on Twitter, maybe even on YouTube, than you do on Metacritic. Because again, it's not a 5-point difference. It's not a 6-point difference. It's not an example of a game that maybe critics give like a 4, and then the review or people that play it afterwards give it like an 8. It's not that. But I mean, like, a 2 points is like a pretty big deal. And I do just think, like, generally, just a general thing, it continues to illustrate the difference between gaming journalists, not even calling any of specifically out in this instance, but just gaming journalists and gamers. Now, like, again, to be very clear and to be very fair, everybody's opinion is different. And also, when you have such few reviewers, you may end up getting this. I mean, if they gave the code to double the people, maybe the score actually would have been higher, right? Because you're just taking a larger sample size. So just to kind of throw that in there, because you're not dealing with a lot of people, you could have given it to people that didn't like the comedy. And maybe if you gave it to double the people, some people would have enjoyed the comedy and gave it a higher score. It's just, it could have happened, you know what I mean? But there is, and I don't think anybody would pretend otherwise, there is a disconnect between what gaming journalists think is important, think that we should care about, demand that we care about, or we do or don't do, and then also what games are good or not good. And my opinion for reviews has never changed. Like, if a game gets a really high score or gets a really low score, doesn't change it for me. From my perspective, I'm going to make my own decision. If I think the game looks good and I'm going to get it or I want to get it, the review is not going to change my mind unless it's something like absolutely colossal, okay? And like everybody's saying it's like a big deal, then it's, maybe it'll skew my opinion of it. But if it's just some people saying, well, I don't agree with this, or this doesn't work for me, and that's fine. That's fine. But it's, again, like in a vacuum, in a smaller thing, it's not that big of a deal. But I mean, we do understand, I think, right? Everybody here on YouTube, or at least in this little sphere that I have, that gaming journalists maybe haven't done so great at their job in the last 5 to 10 years, and this just continues to illustrate this divide. Again, though, same coin, different side of the coin. It is just their opinion. It's just and literally, because you could argue, if you're like a gaming journalist watching this video, I would imagine like a response would be, well, like, who cares? Like, well, it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I think. And that is a fair point. That is a fair point. In life, with games, with opinions of games, if you don't agree with it, it doesn't matter. So, like, yes, the reviews, the numbers there is a difference between what they think and what people that are playing it afterwards think. I want to keep saying gamers, but like, yes, like there's the joke that like game journalists aren't gamers, and I think some of them absolutely aren't, but they are. Like, the rest of them are, and the people that play it for reviews, they are. So just want to kind of make that known. So there is a difference in score there, but ultimately, does it matter? Does it actually matter? And I think it only matters if you're somebody if you're a couple different people. If you're someone like me who just kind of watches the world burn and all that stuff, you just want to kind of talk about it for fun. But also if you're somebody, honestly, this does get messy. If you are somebody who cares about the scores, right? If you legitimately are looking for scores to determine your opinion, which I don't agree with, but what you do is not up to me, so it's fine. I mean, that's my motto. I'm sticking with it. If you go based off reviews to decide to get a game or not, okay, that would actually be a pretty big problem, because you see sites giving it something, and the same thing for movies. Like, is this movie good? Well, the site gave it a 40, or Rotten Tomatoes is a 42. But it actually got like a 79 based off audiences. So like, which one do I trust? The experts, the critics, or do I trust people that saw it afterwards? Like, which one do I? And I mean, normally I would say you would trust the majority, the people that are doing it. And also, there's no agenda necessary. I mean, okay, well, everything's an agenda. I'm sure you could find examples, but there could be issues with the journalist. It's a sticky situation. It's a slippery slope. All those S words, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. I hope to see you all on the next one.